The last thing Commander Dane Everest remembered was the explosion. One moment, he was aboard the Earth Alliance warship Aegis, launching a desperate counterstrike against the enemy dreadnought. The next, blackness. When he opened his eyes, the sky above him was no longer metal and stars, but a vast red expanse of clouds swirling like fire. His body ached. His left shoulder was bleeding. The planet's air was breathable, but thick with dust and heat. He coughed, pulling himself up from a crater of shattered stone and glass. His suit's beacon was dead. His sidearm was gone, and no comes. They'd left him. He wasn't surprised. The Alliance didn't waste resources on lost men. He'd always known that. What surprised him was that he'd survived. The valley before him stretched endlessly charred plains littered with ruined towers and black spires jutting like broken bones from the earth. A battlefield. A forgotten city. He didn't care. He had two goals now: survive, and find a way off this rock. He limped forward, clutching his shoulder. As the heat bore down, the silence of the wasteland was broken by a sudden, haunting sound. A cry, neither beast nor machine. It made the hair on his neck rise. Something was watching him. Hours passed. The sun burned twice as bright as Earth's. Dane found shelter in a shattered stone archway, scavenging what he could from metallic debris. He wrapped his wound with melted cloth and tried not to think of how badly it stung. Just as he began to doze, the cry came again, closer this time. Then came the footsteps. He drew a sharp-edged shard from the wreckage, holding it like a knife. Whatever was out there, he wouldn't go down without a fight. She emerged from the smoke. Not a beast, not a machine, an alien. Tall, regal. Her skin shimmered a deep obsidian with silver streaks along her arms like war paint. Her eyes glowed softly violet and calm. She wore no armor, but carried herself like a warrior. And yet, there was no weapon in her hands. Dane froze. She said something in a melodic language he didn't understand. When he didn't answer, she stepped forward slowly, one hand raised, calm, not hostile. He didn't lower the shard. "I don't know who you are," he said hoarsely, "but if you've come to kill me, just get it over with." To his shock, she paused, tilted her head, and then spoke again in perfect English. Voice low and resonant. "I have not come to kill you, human. You are a gift." He blinked. "What?" "My people say you fell from the stars, wrapped in fire. That means something. Here." She knelt, placing her palm on the scorched earth between them. "I am Queen Kylari, of the Virexian remnant. Our gods are silent, our armies shattered. But your arrival on this day, at this hour, matches the prophecy of the starborn flame." He stared at her, not sure whether to laugh or pass out. She smiled faintly. "You think I'm mad? I think I've lost too much blood." Without asking, she stepped forward and pressed her hand to his shoulder. A warm light pulsed from her palm, and Dane gasped as pain dulled and the bleeding slowed. "What? What did you do?" She pulled back. "We call it Teleron. It is not a cure, but you will not die today." He slumped against the stone. "Great. So I've gone from dead man to prophecy fulfillment. To something more," Kylari said softly, standing again. "Come, the Virexians await. If you are who the stars have sent, they will call you king." He looked up at her in disbelief, and then, for reasons he couldn't explain, he stood, even wounded, even lost, because somehow he believed her. Dane followed Queen Kylari through the crumbling valley, his steps unsteady but determined. The alien sun had begun to dip, casting long violet shadows across the ravaged land. If this was royalty, he thought, it was royalty walking through the grave of her own kingdom. As they approached a jagged ridge, Kylari raised a hand. The rock shimmered and parted, revealing a hidden entrance. Not technology, something older, stranger. She led him into a tunnel carved with swirling glyphs that pulsed faintly as she passed. The air cooled, thick with the scent of minerals and ancient secrets. "You live underground?" Dane asked. Kailari gave a slight nod. "Above is no longer safe. Raiders, scavengers, those who believe the war is not yet over. Down here, we are forgotten and that is our protection." The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, a hidden city, half buried, lit by bioluminescent vines and glowing crystals that cast soft blue light. Dozens of figures emerged from the shadows, tall like Kailari, but thinner, older, worn by time and conflict. All eyes fixed on Dane. Kailari stepped forward and raised her voice. "This is the one foretold. The flame that falls from the sky. The last Star King." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some dropped to one knee. Others turned away in doubt. Dane stepped back. "Wait, you are not ready," Kailari said calmly. "But you will be." She gestured to an elderly male figure who stepped forward, leaning on a curved staff. "This is Orinthi, my seer. He will speak with you." The seer's eyes glowed faintly white. He studied Dane with a slow, measured gaze. "His blood is not of this world," he whispered, voice like rusted wind, "yet the fire moves within him." "I'm just a soldier," Dane muttered, "not some ... chosen one." Orinthi touched Dane's arm, "Perhaps, but destiny often chooses those with no desire for thrones." Dane looked to Kailari. "Why me?" She met his gaze without flinching. "Because you are here, because you survived, and because our people believe again for the first time in years." He didn't respond. He couldn't. The weight of their expectations was suffocating. He'd come from war and betrayal, from a government that discarded him. Now, strangers were calling him king. Kailari seemed to sense his turmoil. She guided him away from the crowd, through another corridor lit with pale green light. "Do you know what this world was called before?" "The Fall," she asked quietly. He shook his head. "Cyravel," she whispered. "It meant throne of harmony. Now it is just a battlefield of memories." They entered a chamber, small and private, a low platform in the center, draped with silver cloth. She gestured for him to sit. He lowered himself onto it slowly, exhaustion overtaking him. Kailari knelt beside him and placed a small orb near his feet. It glowed softly, projecting a star map. "That is your world," she said, pointing to a tiny blue dot. "And that," she moved her hand to a neighboring cluster, "is what remains of mine." Dane stared at the distance between them. So far, yet here they were, side by side. "Why did you help me?" he asked. Her voice was low. "Because I am tired of watching everything I love turn to dust." She paused, then looked into his eyes. "And because, ... I think you are different." Dane didn't know what to say. For once, words failed him. Kailari stood. "Rest now. Tomorrow, the council will decide whether to accept you as more than myth. But tonight, you are simply a man who survived." She turned to leave, then hesitated. "And if you dream," she added, "listen closely. The ruins still whisper to those who might rebuild them." As she vanished into the shadows, Dane lay back on the soft cloth. He had come to this world broken, a discarded tool. Now, he was being asked to become something more. He didn't know if he was ready, but for the first time in a long while, he wanted to try. Dane woke to the scent of steam and metal. For a brief moment, he forgot where he was. No war alarms, no ship corridors, just the soft glow of unfamiliar lights filtering through the stone walls of the alien chamber. His shoulder ached less, though a faint throb remained. As he sat up, the orb Kalar had shown him the night before still glowed faintly near his feet, now projecting a rotating image of Cyraval as it once was, a green and golden world crowned in light. A soft knock echoed from the entry arch. A younger Virexian, no older than a teen in human years, stepped inside, Queen Kailari requests your presence. The council awaits. Dane nodded, rising to his feet. His legs were stiff, his body still recovering, but he felt stronger than yesterday more. Grounded. The boy offered him a cloak, a deep gray fabric etched with silver threading, symbol of peace, the boy explained. You wear it not as king, but as guest. Dane took the cloak without comment, draping it over his shoulders. The material was light but strong. Like everything here, the corridor to the council chamber was long, lit with hovering crystals that pulsed as he passed. He caught glimpses of the city children playing near a waterfall, elders meditating in rooms carved from stone, warriors training with glowing spears. These weren't savages. These were survivors. At the chamber's entrance, Kailari waited. She looked different today, dressed in dark ceremonial armor, subtle but elegant. Her eyes met his and held there. You're late, she said softly. I wasn't sure if I'd be welcome, Dane replied. Not all will accept you. Some still believe your arrival is coincidence. Others. She glanced past him, hope at salvation. She turned and led him inside. The council chamber was shaped like a crescent moon. 13 Virexian elders sat in curved formation, each in robes of varying colors. Their expressions were unreadable, some calm, some wary. Kailari stood beside him but did not speak. It was Orinthi, the seer, who rose first. We call this meeting to decide the fate of the human called Dane Everus, fallen from the sky, survivor of the flames. Another elder leaned forward, his tone sharp. A soldier of a species that has brought war to more than one system. An outcast, said another, discarded by his own kind, or chosen, Orinthi countered. To walk with us, to rise with us. A third stood, female. Her voice cut through the room like cold steel. Then let him be tested by fire, as our ancestors were. Murmurs filled the chamber. What kind of test? Dane asked quietly. Kailari's jaw tightened. The trial of the flame. You enter the heart spire. If the fire accepts you, you leave alive. And if it doesn't, no one ever leaves. Dane turned toward the council. You want me to walk into a death trap to prove I'm not your enemy? The steel-voiced elder narrowed her eyes. No, to prove you are more. Dane looked at Kailari. What do you think? I think you are stronger than you know. That was all he needed. I'll do it. The council said nothing more. By evening, they stood before the heart spear, a towering structure of obsidian and glowing fissures rising from the earth like a blade. The air around it shimmered with heat, though no flames were visible. This is ancient, Kailari said, predating even our oldest songs. Some believe it to be alive. It burns away all falsehood. Dane touched the stone. It pulsed. He turned to her. If I don't come back, you will, she said. Because you believe in something again. That fire is already inside you. Dane stepped into the spire. The heat struck him instantly. He moved deeper, past twisting halls that seemed to shift behind him. Images flickered across the walls. Memories, dreams, regrets. He saw the faces of fallen comrades. He heard the orders that sent them to die. He saw himself alone, angry, broken. And then he saw her, Kailari, standing in light, her hand outstretched. He reached forward, and the flame answered. It didn't burn him. It wrapped around him like wind. It didn't demand he be perfect. Only honest, only willing. When he stepped out of the spire an hour later, the crowd waiting outside fell silent. His cloak no longer gray but now white with threads of gold. Orinthi bowed deeply. The fire chose, and for the first time, the council bowed to Kailari, approached him, voice soft. You passed. No, Dane said, his voice hoarse. I survived. And now he belonged. Night had fallen over the hidden Virexian city, but it didn't feel dark. The streets glowed with quiet reverence, the crystals embedded in the walls humming with new energy. Word of Dane's survival had spread faster than light. Children whispered his name. Elders gazed with cautious respect. Warriors offered brief, silent nods of approval. Dane didn't know how to feel about any of it. He wasn't used to attention. Back home, no one had ever bowed to him. They gave him orders, sent him on suicide missions, then forgot his name once. He came back. If he came back. But here he was becoming a symbol. After the trial, the council had not spoken another word. But no one needed them to. The cloak on his shoulders had changed. The flame had marked him. In Varexian culture, that meant more than titles. It meant destiny had acknowledged him, and that scared him more than any war. He sat now on the edge of a stone balcony that overlooked the bioluminescent lake. The silence felt heavier tonight, like the calm before a storm. Footsteps approached behind him, quiet but deliberate. Kale. Ari. She didn't say anything at first, just stood beside him, eyes on the lake. You're not wearing your armor, he said. I'm not your queen right now, she replied. Dane turned to her. Then who are you? She took a breath. Someone who still doubts herself, who wonders if she's asking too much of someone who never asked for this. He looked away. You didn't ask for your world to burn. I didn't ask to be left for dead. But here we are. She sat beside him, their shoulders nearly touching. They think you'll lead them. I'm not a leader. I'm a survivor. There's a difference. But maybe that's exactly what they need. The silence stretched between them. Then Kailari reached into the folds of her cloak and pulled out a small crystal shaped like a tear, glowing faintly blue. What is it? He asked. A memory, she said, handing it to him. My mother's last words. Recorded before the fall. He hesitated, then touched the surface. The crystal flared, projecting a shimmering image above their heads. A tall Varexian woman, regal even in death. To my daughter, the voice echoed. You will rise from the ash, not with war, but with wisdom. The starflame will guide you. And when he arrives, you must let him choose. Not the crown, but you. The image faded. Kailari looked away quickly, blinking hard. Dane set the crystal down gently. You think I'm him? I didn't, she admitted. Until today. He didn't answer. He didn't know how. The weight of a lost world rested on her shoulders. Now part of it had shifted onto his. She stood, brushing imaginary dust from her cloak. There's something else you need to see. They walked through a private passage that led into the mountainside, deep into chambers. Few Varexians ever entered. The path ended in a wide vault, with stone statues lining both walls. Each bore a different expression: sorrow, pride, pain, resolve. These are the kings of flame, Kailari explained, chosen in ancient times, not by bloodline, but by fire. And what happened to them? They gave everything, she said, to protect us, to rebuild, to hold the darkness back. Dane walked slowly down the row, the air thick with memory. At the end of the hall, an empty pedestal awaited. That one's yours, she said quietly. He turned. I haven't accepted anything. You passed the flame. You carry the mark. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask to fall in love with a man from another world, she said softly. But I did. The words struck him like a pulse through the chest. He stepped toward her, uncertain. You love me. She met his eyes. I don't know what it means to you, on Earth. But here, we feel with our whole being. I tried to fight it. You were human, broken, angry. Still am. She nodded. But so am I. And still, I choose you. Dane's hand shook as he reached out to touch her face. This crown, this destiny, I don't know if I can carry it. Then we carry it together, she whispered. Their lips met, slow, honest, full of the fire that had tested and changed them both. No prophecy could have written this moment. It belonged to them, and them alone. When they pulled apart, Dane let out a long breath. I'm not your king, he said. No, she agreed. You're our king. He looked back at the empty pedestal, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a death sentence. It felt like a beginning. The underground city stirred with urgency the next morning. Runners darted through corridors. Crystals flickered, a warning red. The peace of the last few days shattered like glass beneath boots. Kailari stood at the center of the command platform, her face calm, but her posture battle-ready. Dane joined her, already armored. The cloak of flame had been reforged into something practical, silver trim over light battleware that marked him not just as a symbol, but as a warrior prepared to defend. They're here, she said simply. Dane didn't need to ask who. The Threx, Syndicate, Raiders, Slavers, Scavengers. Word had spread that a human with flame marks had survived the trial, and that the Verexian queen walked beside him. That was enough to draw out the worst kind of attention. How many? He asked. 3 dropships. 2 more orbiting. They think we're weak. They'll learn otherwise. She gave him a sidelong glance. You don't need to fight. He smirked. You gave me a throne. I think that comes with responsibilities. Moments later, the alert bell rang. The first blast rocked the upper tunnels. Phyrexian warriors rushed into defensive positions. Dane followed Kailari to the outer defense ring, what used to be a mountain temple, before it became a fortress. The sky had turned a sickly green, pierced by the fiery glow of incoming ships. Dane raised his pulse rifle. Kailari stood beside him, glowing spear in hand, eyes fierce and unwavering. You were right, he said, as the ground rumbled under their boots. About what? This world chose me. The first wave of Threx. Mercenaries stormed the ridge armored, armed, and confident. But the Verexians were ready. They struck like shadows, weaving through cover, using their knowledge of the terrain. Kailari moved like fire and wind, her spear dancing through the enemy line. Dane fought at her side, his earthborn tactics merging with her people's precision. They weren't just fighting together. They were bonded. More ships descended. Too many. Dane saw what was coming, overrun, overpowered. No reinforcements. No escape. He turned to Kailari. We need to trigger the Skyforge. Her eyes widened. That would destroy half the mountain. It'll collapse the entrance. Buy time. Force them to retreat, and you'll be buried. I'll survive. No, she said firmly. We survive, together. They ran through a back tunnel to the Skyforger relic chamber, once used to shape Verexian war steel with cosmic fire. Dane accessed the control console, while Kailari stood guard. As the old systems powered up, she grabbed his arm. If you do this, there's no turning back. There's nothing to turn back to, he said. Only forward. The Skyforge roared to life. The walls shook violently. Outside, the attackers hesitated. Inside, Dane and Kailari ran back toward the city as the mountainside groaned above them. The explosion that followed was not a weapon. It was a declaration. The ancient spire collapsed in flames, sealing the path to the city with burning rock. The Threx ships scrambled in retreat, their sensors detecting structural failure and unstable ground. When the dust cleared, only silence remained. Deep in the tunnels, surrounded by ash and smoke, Kailari and Dane emerged from behind a sealed support gate, bruised, burned, but alive. The people cheered as they returned, not because the war was over, but because they had seen the prophecy fulfilled. Dane wasn't the strongest fighter, not the wisest leader, not the chosen hero of ancient songs. But he had made a choice no other had. He'd stayed, fought, but believed. In the weeks that followed, the Verexians began rebuilding, this time not in hiding, but in unity. Their underground city opened slowly to trade, to new worlds, to peace. Dane stood at Kailari's side when the crown was reforged, not a jewel, but a circlet of woven flame metal that pulsed faintly with the fire he had earned. And when took his hand before their people. She said, "This is not a king who rules from above. He walks beside us." He rose not to command but to protect. He never imagined being anyone's symbol. But now he was more than that. He was home. The end.